Is it?
Space Noodles.
I'll leave that in, and that would be the intro to the first thing. You going?
Space Noodles.
There you go. First episode of the podcast. Super duper excited, by the way. Ishmam, Chris. As I said in my intro, I'm gonna get friends coming in to be doing this with me. So super duper exciting. And what better way to start it off than kind of going into the topic of dreams slash reality slash jobs. Now, like we talked, like why are we starting off with this particular thing? It's because I've been wanting to do this for a while now. For at least, I mean, how long have we been talking about? I mean, since I've met you, I've been talking about this.
That's
so
true.
so it's been over a year, let's say. And I mean, you can also talk about what you're also doing in the
Yes.
side.
Yes, because it was just something that started actually before I had met you and I had joined the company. So yeah, absolutely, it was. So my gaming community, which is something that we've been running with a group of friends now for a while. We have a lot of members here now and everything. Yeah, it's very exciting to really be involved in something that you're passionate about. It's different.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, we both work, so I thought it was a good kind of starting point because we both have our jobs, we both work, and at the same time, we're both trying to do something that is kind of beyond what we have at work, something that we both have more control on, and I think that was the best place to start with this because every now and again, like we've been working for the past like not that long, 8 to 15 years amongst both of us, and every now and again you get that saying that people come and say that, you know what, you should continue working because you have those moments where you're like, "Ah, I don't want to do this." Disclaimer: I love my job.
Yeah,
before
absolutely.
before I go anywhere, I love my job. I love what I do. So I'm not saying in any way that I plan on quitting or anything like that. But you always hear, like, you always have those moments, right, where just like, I just can't be bothered today. But
Yeah, of course, everybody does.
and that's where and that's where I hear all the time, like, keep working, use your job, and then you want to use that to finance whatever it is that you really want to do. And I've always taken that to heart because I mean, I wouldn't be able to set any of this up if I didn't have a job. Like this, I wouldn't even think about like doing this if I didn't have a job. So I think the first thing that I want to talk about on this is realistic expectations between, like, something that you do for a living on a day-to-day basis and also something that you're trying to do as a side. I mean, you can go first.
Oh, I can go first. Well,
Yeah.
now obviously, as you're aware, as we're a small island here in Cyprus and everything, when it comes to my passion and hobby, I'm a total nerd. I love comic books and video games and all these kind of things. And it's a small island. You don't really have a space for some types of games, right? There's only a limited market here. So it really was never a question of can you have a profession in the gaming industry in Cyprus? Like, absolutely not. It was not even something worth considering. And you already had the very big and famous and popular toy stores, those who were already addressing the niche market and everything to some extent, right? And so it was never something to really look into as a direction to even take. Now, that's why, if you think about it along the way, for me, to be able to get to the point where just to obviously put everyone into more clear limelight here. So at this current point in time, we're soon opening up a shop, which will also be a community center. It'll be a place where people can come and play their games with weekly events and monthly events, larger monthly events, let's say. And this all started from just a few people in a house, like 5 people together playing Dungeons and Dragons and not having the time or the space to play other games like board games and Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, and all these kinds of crazy games. And even finding other people to play video games with because our nights would not always align, our free nights, right? You wanted to be able to play with other people and you're alone at home at night playing just on your own and sometimes you're like, oh. But yeah, it all started from there and we really built into it. But I have to say, like, for me to get to even close to the point where I could even start considering taking this a step forward, I mean, I've had to work over like almost a 10-year history in jobs and not always jobs that I wanted to necessarily do, but jobs that I knew I needed to do to get by, to be able to build on the experience, the skills, the knowledge, the maturity that I needed to actually get to a point where I can comfortably say, I have the resources I need to keep myself, let's say, and my survival, shelter, food. I'm making it sound so exaggerated and dramatic, but obviously you're talking shelter, food, water, clothing, like some of the bare necessities. Even some of these things are luxuries today, but some of the bare necessities, to be comfortable enough to then say, okay, now I can focus on, something that's my hobby, that is my passion, that I'd like to take and make that into my reality. And again, it's a step-by-step approach.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like, because you say you're talking about the gaming community in Cyprus and even considering to make that into your profession.
Yeah.
But let's say, like, on my perspective, let's say doing this, even the podcast that we've been talking about, I didn't even think about it as a profession.
Absolutely.
For me, it was all like, my expectation of this was just to have something where I have full control.
Absolutely.
Where there's no other people depending on how quickly I do something or how well I do something. It's primarily me, however I want it, whenever I want. So just to have that control. Whereas, the expectations, let's say on the realistic side of things on the job, right? The reason why I do that is, like you're saying, like, again, maybe it sounds exaggerated, but I am pretty sure I'm pretty sure many people have this fear, right? Because not everyone has the luxury of your parents pushing you up or having that net under you at all times. But you see, in the back of my head, I'm always like, okay, shelter, food, bills, worst case scenario, something happens, an accident happens, somebody gets hurt, my mom, my dad, anybody in my family, they need something.
Resources, absolutely.
Exactly.
You need to be able to cover the bare necessities.
Exactly. And that is my main expectation, like, let's say for my job, like, I do this job with the expectation that I can provide these things for myself and for some members of my family. Yeah. Whereas expectation for this is, I just want to have some fun, like something where I don't have to take it so, like, freaking seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the time.
I mean, look, even if you want to take it seriously to some extent, it can still be your hobby and your passion, but it can be taken in a way that it's not, I need to, for example, meet KPIs for this, so I get my salary at the end of the month and don't get fired, right? Yeah. Like a lot of people who might be photographers, or artists, and they take it so seriously. They love it, right? It's their passion. It's what drives them at the end of the day. And this is the truth at the end of the day. It's like we work, to live for these things, you know. So they may take it very seriously, but it's still somewhere where, for them, taking it that seriously is somewhere where they can let go of themselves. They get lost in that art, in their hobby, in their skill, whatever it is that they do. And I mean, I think I'm trying to go back to one of the things you had said. Right, which was, and this is why I kind of laughed earlier as well. I giggled, which is, I understand what you're saying about starting this as something which is just for fun, because as well, when we started the community, for us, it, like, and even now, the way we're doing it, it's not like we have a tremendous amount of resources or something, and we're not doing this to necessarily, of course we want to be able to gain more so we can keep building on this and having bigger communities and more people coming, right, and across more cities, which we already have a good outreach. It's not that we don't, but we would like to be able to be established well for everyone to be able to join, right? So far we can only accommodate a certain amount of people. And so it's essentially a give and take with the community, right? You all work together to keep benefiting that. But when this all started, of course, this wasn't even close to the idea or the plan. Like, I mean, we started off getting together at a barbershop playing D&D, and we thought, hey, why not just...
Mike's barbershop?
Yeah, absolutely. Eden's barbershop, Eden's hair and beauty salon.
We love you.
Yes, Mike. Much love. Thank you. No, because he held down the fort for a long time, and he was hosting weekly Wednesday events where people could just come and play any game they wanted. Even if it wasn't something he would necessarily play, he'd just be there to chill with people, give them the space to do. Like, these are things that we were doing it just for fun. We were just doing it to meet people and play with them.
But sorry for cutting you off. But I actually want to know, because I'm in a place where, let's say, you were with your community leaders, and now it's spiraled to a place where it's bigger, where you have more, like, ambitions and aspirations on what to do. So now, right, with let's say your jobs and these other things that you do that is like more along the lines of dreams slash passions, right? I also want to touch on defining success because I think that's really important. I think whenever you go do anything,
Oof,
whether
yeah.
that be your job or whether that be something like this, like, and if I can go with, let's say, my job first, right? How do I define success, right? For me, my success is not defined in terms of money. My success is defined, at least for me, is the impact you make, um, how people kind of perceive you in the workplace. Are you an expert? Are you a mentor? Um, and the more that kind of, and the more you feel in that kind of driving seat, or you feel in that seat where you see that people depend on you for certain things, that is success for me. And I also think that for me, as long as the ambition is there, um, I think like that also is an important thing for me. Because I feel like if there comes a day where I have no more ambition, like I'm so comfortable at work, like I am already not successful. I am
Right.
so allergic to people who are not ambitious. Like, and I know I'm serious. Like, they really tick me off. Like people who come to work, they're like, "Oh, I'm okay with this." I cannot deal with it. Like, don't you want anything better for yourself? Don't you want to learn something new? Don't you want to do something? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not the type. I'm not like so incredible at what I do. But
Yeah.
at least I dream of doing something more, or getting
You
something more.
aspire to something. You
Yes.
know that there is room for improvement. You know there is room for growth. There is room for continuous, and increased success. So because you see it that way, you aim for it, you strive for it,
And
which a lot of people who don't put themselves goals and ambitions essentially end up stagnant, and this is problematic generally.
and as cheesy as this sounds, dude, I've noticed that when you work just for money, it don't work. Like it does not work. Because I feel like the better I do at what I do, right? Money becomes a byproduct at that point. Like it comes to you
Right.
regardless.
Right.
If you do what you're supposed to do in a way that nobody else is doing it. Of
Yes.
course, in a good way, of course.
But bear in mind, and I'm sorry to interrupt, and that kind of goes like in some ways, which means sorry, uh,
So,
which in some ways in it kind of, I won't say it goes against, but it seems to contradict what we were saying earlier. If you think about it, that you're using your job to be able to do your passion and your hobby, right? So and yes, you're gonna have yeah, you see. So it does, but that's where you need to define parameters, right? This is where you need to understand, and this is unique to the individual. You can't necessarily say we can all do this, but you need to know how willing you are to compromise, right?
yeah.
And this is in many aspects. It's not just compromise, like how much am I willing to compromise my happiness in the job that I'm in? No. Because if I'm going to go and start making a gaming community and I don't work where I work right now and I'm getting no resources, no funds, no money from that, I don't live. If I don't live, I can't take care of another job.
Yeah.
If I can't take care of myself, my own hygiene and health and sanity and physical well-being, if I can't take care of these things, how am I going to take care of something else?
Yeah.
So you have to know where you want to compromise, how you want to compromise, and again, an example would be, for example, how many professions uh, you yourself, but also myself, have been through to get to where we are today, right? Like we didn't start as a training lead and a trainer, nowhere near, right? We started off in totally different directions and ended up through our journeys and through looking for what we wanted alongside a compromise of our actual ambitions and dreams. So this is, I know it's kind of going back to setting expectations, but it ties into defining success there as well. Because when you see yourself heading more and more towards where you want to go, that's how you start defining your success.
Now, just short, right? In very short, what would be? How would you define success for work gaming?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Like,
I
what would you
mean,
be happy with? Like, you know what? Like, if it reaches
look,
to this point, I'm happy.
look, I'm not gonna say I'm not already happy because my starting expectations were low, right? Then not because I didn't expect us to do a good job, absolutely not. And I mean, beyond myself, my community leaders have gone above and beyond to do work that I wouldn't on my own definitely haven't been able to do. But remind me your question.
um, So how would you define?
On a
How would you?
tangent in my mind.
No, because I'm just curious to know, like,
Define success for work.
for
gaming,
work.
right? I am already happy with everything as it is. I mean, bear in mind, we started with so little, and now, for example, we're sending 8 people to Brussels in a world championship, right, for Warhammer 40K, which it blows my mind to still think about it, right? So I'm already happy, but yes, of course, I want to have a lot of success. I would love to be able to, for example, be one of the head grand tournaments of the Mediterranean and the Middle East, right? To be able to bring people from all regions together under that, that banner of gaming, and ignore everything else, all the problems of the world, and just play games and tournaments and just enjoy ourselves, or to be able to have community centers in different parts of the world, mostly around these regions and everything. That's a good start, to be able to have our shop, to be able to support gamers who are, looking to make a field or a niche for themselves and to become professionals in the industry, which a lot of these countries don't have the support. In the US, you might have that. In the UK, you might have this kind of support. Korea, Japan, absolutely. But in countries like Cyprus and in the Middle East, you don't have that kind of support for these things. So yeah, a lot of things like this.
That's cool. For me, for this whole thing, I still don't know what I want with it. I think I think it will be a huge success if I can just streamline this process. Because I'm telling you right now, this is hard.
Ishmael just wants to be a celebrity.
Maybe.
He wants to be able to strut around in luxury clothing.
Yeah. I already do that. I'm kidding.
You definitely strut.
Yeah, exactly. Minus the luxury clothing. But
you have nice clothing. I've told you. I've started following your example already. So I like the way you dress yourself. Good style. It's good.
You're not getting anything out of this, Chris. No, but I would love to learn this thing properly, because it's something I genuinely, when people talk about recording and whether that be through video, audio, like setting up lights and whatnot, it always fascinates me. But I never realized how big of a task it is. It seems easy, just like with anything else, it seems easy. But when you dip your hand into it, oh my God, it's difficult. And don't even get me started on editing these things. I know it doesn't, for people who do it, it's probably easy. But for me, when for the intro, when I was trying to edit and put everything together, trying to get that stupid image to come out.
Pop up the sounds or anything like that.
I was gonna pull my hair out. I was like, why does it not work? Work, please. But anyways, also, what I wanted to talk about was, I know we were talking about ambitions, and we were talking about something before that. What were we talking about before that?
Professions, realities.
Yeah. What I wanted to ask about, how do you balance this out, right? I think it's important for anybody kind of trying to do something. I think we all have to struggle with the part of balancing, kind of reality with the practicality of things.
Absolutely.
Because for us, let's say for me right now, how would the balance work? Our weeks are crazy at work. When the weekend comes in, I just want to sleep. I just want to sit down, watch a movie or something.
Yes. I know that feeling.
But I also want to do this. And I want to do this because I really enjoy doing this. This is actually such a fun process. Yeah. But I have to sacrifice
other things resting, that you would like to do, yeah.
To be honest. Or just and I understand some of the more I don't know, let's talk about some of the more successful people who are always they're going 24/7, they're going ham all the time. I don't want to be that person.
No.
But that's why, let's say, today's Saturday, so I plan on doing this. Maybe I'll go crazy today. I'll try to make this all work out.
Nice, prim and proper.
Yes, and then on Sunday, I'm just gonna shut down.
Yeah, power off.
Yeah, I'm just literally gonna go power off and whatnot. But how, that's also an important thing, I think, to think about. How do you balance those things out?
It's very important to think about it. And honestly, there was a part of my life, and I'm not saying I'm there yet. And by the way, I do want to put this out there for people generally. First of all, this is a very serious concept, right? Because you have to keep in mind that we are machines at the end of the day, right? Biological machines, very, very complicated ones, very beautifully made ones. Whatever your background and thoughts on evolution is, right? And how people came to be. That's not the point. The point is we are very beautiful complex biological machines. And if you don't maintain that machine, it will eventually stop serving you, right? It will not keep up with what you want to do. And burnout is a very real and very like underestimated not affliction, but situation that you end up putting yourself in, if you aren't careful with these things. So it's obviously okay to not necessarily always have the energy to do your passions and hobbies that you want to take further. And you have to, as you said earlier, like set that kind of like a plan, a process, so that you feel it's effective and it smoothens things for you, so it's easier for you to handle this. But yeah, so so when for example, when it came to the community and everything, it's it's a very I'm still working on this, right? I'm working on balancing things, and there are times where essentially I have to turn to the leaders and tell them, guys, like I have a lot of work, I have a lot of personal things, even emotional or psychological things to take care of, whatever the situation might be. Someone might have gotten hurt in the family. I'm not doing that well. I can't handle things right now. I need to run after my family, and I still have my job to take care of. So there, I can't really take after the community, right? Recently, I was sick. I got sick for 2 weeks, influenza A. I had to stay home. I was not doing well at all. I needed to rely on them, right? So you have to be able to find the processes, but also the people and the environments you have to set up for yourself to be able to handle these things and to bounce things between each other. Otherwise, it's just very difficult to manage it on your own. There is burnout; it's very real, and it will not be pleasant to get back on your feet after that.
So to be fair, I also want to highlight why I specifically picked out these like kind of talking points, because I think if anybody is like really watching and has kind of watched it all the way through this, I think at some point in time, I think everybody's thought about doing something on their own, like starting something that, I don't know, maybe means something more to them. I think everybody has. And I think for me, when I was trying to think about this, the things that came to me were these things. Like, what are my expectations? How do I balance these things out? What would be success for me? Yeah. And based on that, that's the next thing that I actually want to go on. And something that I touched on in the introduction video was that I've been thinking about this for 1 to 2 years. And the thing that I want to touch on is the role of fear. Yeah. One of the reasons why it took me this long is, as human beings, I don't know, I just think that we're just anxious creatures to begin with. People who are confident, I am so jealous of them. People who are just like that, who just radiate confidence, and they're just like, yes, let's just do it. Who cares?
Let's go.
Let's just go. I'm not like that. I am like thinking all the things that are gonna go wrong.
Fear of failure, fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown, exactly. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why it took
fear
me so long.
Yeah.
Consequence as well. And I don't know, like, it's because it's difficult to put yourself out there, because I realize that us doing this is, you're pretty much opening up yourself to like the firing line. Yeah. Because you could easily say something that somebody doesn't agree with, or you could say something that is not a very popular opinion, and you can have people come at you. But what I realized is it doesn't really matter. Like why would it really matter? If it's your opinion, it's my opinion. As long as
that's what it is. As long as you're not infringing on the freedom of another person.
Exactly. Then, yes. Yeah. As long as I'm not actively trying to hurt somebody or like cause harm to somebody. I mean, it took me a while to get over that.
Opinions can be dangerous, but absolutely, as long as it's not, overstepping boundaries, then everyone's opinion is their own.
True, and to be fair, I hope like if anybody's watched all the way through, I would really like to know like what they think about. Like, it's easy for you to say like, oh, it's my opinion. Yeah. But where do you draw the line on this? Like, when is an opinion okay, and when does your opinion start not being okay?
Yeah, that's a very tough one, and also bear in mind it's very rooted in where you're located, isn't it? Because where you grow up, what you see, what you know, what you think. Yes. But yeah, this would be interesting to hear from people, and maybe a topic we can definitely dive into with more detail. But what I did want to ask you, to kind of go back to what you were saying about fear, and you said 1 to 2 years, and it's like I do understand where you're coming from, but what I wanted to ask you, what was the defining point which pushed you into saying, you know what, no, I'm gonna break that, like that hold of that hold that the fear has over me, and I'm gonna do this no matter what. Like, what was that defining moment for you?
So that eureka moment, basically.
Yeah, because it is scary to start doing something that you want to do, but because it's scary also, especially because it's something you love and you want to do it well, and then you also fear that other people will not see what you see.
Can you believe right? They have to do this now.
No.
Okay, but
No.
you know what? It's actually the people that I surround myself with. Like, don't get me wrong. When I was in Malaysia, like I love the people. I love my friends. Like,
of course,
you know,
I'm
one
sure.
of them.
Yes, absolutely.
But
And they are fantastic people.
and I am here, and I always tell this. I tell this to my mom. I tell this to my dad. I tell this to my brother. Without the 3 friends that I had throughout college, I will not be where I am today. But you know, they're very different people. You know, and I think as we've all grown up, we've all changed in certain ways, and I also
Normal.
think
Life
exactly.
takes on its course, you know.
And I also think that I came to Cyprus at just the right moment. My start in Cyprus was rough because I didn't know nobody,
That's true.
and COVID hit. So for the first 1.5 years of me in Cyprus, like
Hell.
it was literally hell on earth for me because I didn't know anybody. I didn't know the culture. I didn't know. Let's just say anything, and I'm not even exaggerating.
You didn't even know where you were. You didn't know the streets,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
architecture, nothing. It's
Exactly.
not familiar to you.
Yep. But eventually, once you know everything opened up, once I met all the people here that I know now, once Supicha moved here as well,
Oh, that must have been a blessing at that time.
yeah.
Finally.
and everything kind of like fell into peace, and everything, and that's where I started getting the confidence, because eventually you start to feel comfortable with the people around you, because you're like, look, no matter what I do right now, these people are gonna be behind me. Like, these people have my back.
Yeah. And you see exactly what you're saying, which ties right back into what we were saying at the start. Don't get me wrong, you will continue, but that sense of comfort and security, building that space for you to be able to take care of the things you want to do later.
Yeah.
Having the needs ready to do the wants. You know?
And to be honest, the other thing that even at this moment, like from a few days ago, from when I put out the initial video to today when we're doing this, that has also helped me massively, because you can look at like, oh, you got like, oh, maybe like 50 people watched it, but eventually, yes, there will be negative feedback, and I'm open to that, and we're both open to that, to see what we can do and how we can improve on this. But the amount of like positivity that people threw my way, I was blown away.
I know, it's incredible. It's nice to see when people are motivated or are not inspired, but they come with the supportive, positive attitude when they see someone doing something. It's
You can go in and you'll find 2 comments in the last one. One of the comments from a friend of mine. His name's Shafin. I haven't spoken to this dude in years.
Yeah.
And I was really close. I'm pretty sure he will still consider me close to him, hopefully. But we went through A levels together. So I met him once I finished O levels into A levels. And I knew them till I still know them, but I was always with them till I moved to Malaysia. And ever since I moved to Malaysia, yes, once I used to go home, yes, I'll see them every now and again. But after that, like, it's been probably 4 or 5 years that I haven't seen them. But he left a very kind of
friendly and genuine comment.
Not a friendly comment. I would say something that's very eye-opening kind of comment. He was like, because I sorry, I got something stuck. Okay, but I ended it with like, what's the worst that can happen? And he was the one who said like, yeah, what's the worst that can happen? You're probably gonna sit together with a friend and have a
great conversation. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, what's the worst that can happen? And I was like, he's right. Yeah. Like, as much as it is literally that simple. So for me, those would be like the main points that kind of got me kind of over the line and feeling like, yeah, you know what? Let me do it. Like, how many other Bangladeshi people are sitting here in Cyprus trying to run a freaking podcast?
I know, right?
Yeah, so
crazy, isn't
so
it?
If I think of it that way, I was like, yeah, pretty unique.
Yeah, absolutely.
and it does help.
It does help. Huh? Yeah, you are a unique character.
But based on that, like, so let's see where this goes. Like, and I'm really happy that I got you in as well, because I always thought about doing this, and I always wanted to talk about this, and I was like, I am gonna get Chris to do this with me. It was always my thought. Like, of course, there are things I want to do with Valentin. Hopefully, you'll see who Valentin is.
Yes.
In the future, very handsome man.
Sexiest boy.
You also get. I want to do some of these with Supicha as well. and
Pizza.
and in the future, like, I don't know, like, I want to get like different people on it, like, whoever wants to get involved, whoever's comfortable. I'm pretty sure we'll find some
day we're
stuff
gonna
to talk
stick
about.
Lena in this chair as well.
I would love to get Dana in this. I
know.
feel like if I'm with Dana, it won't be a conversation. It'll just be me teasing her, and she'll just
Just
be
20
like,
minutes of that. That would be
Yeah.
great. I would watch that any day.
I'd probably watch that too. But I think that's a good place to kind of finish that up. Unless you have anything else to add.
No, I think it was a very well-rounded conversation. It's nice to kind of get to actually stop and think and process again. Like, wow, look how far we've gotten because of the way we've set ourselves up and the things we've done so far. And obviously, it's not that there isn't a long way to go. But yeah, I would encourage everyone to sort of stop and think about all the things we discussed today in a way that, how can you apply it to yourselves? And obviously, it's not like we are the most successful to say, oh, look at us. That's not what I'm saying.
No, don't even say the most successful. We're not successful.
No, we're not even successful.
We're just trying to make it.
Exactly, to say, look at us. But for people who are able to say comfortably, hey, we're good where we are. Like, I'm very happy with my life and I'm doing the thing I love. Not just my hobby and passion, of course, but even in my work, I'm doing something that I really love. And to feel that there is both physical benefits and other benefits around that as well. I think everyone could take a leaf out of that, just like we could learn something from you as well. So guys, in the comments, we'd like to hear some stories right?
That's good, because I do want to add this. I'm with you on that talk, because now that we're doing it, I think hearing what even like if it's just friends and family that's watching it, I would love to know what's happening in your life. What is it that you're doing that is maybe scary for you? How do you get over that fear?
Yeah, I'd like to hear, how did you pass that fear? How did you push yourself to do your hobby and your passion or your love? It could even be your main profession. That was your hobby and it's now your main profession. Like, what was your process? What did you do? How did you prioritize things? How did you use the support of people around you? It'd be great to hear these
and also I want to kind of go back on one thing that I said now that I think about it, and maybe I came off a bit aggressive, like when I said that I'm like a bit allergic to people who are not ambitious, because I understand that you might, like, due to different circumstances in your life, you could be happy with what you're doing and that could be the thing that like sustains you. But if that is the case, I would also want to know, like, if you are in that position where you're good, you're like, this. But like, what are the criteria that you kind of look at when you're like, you know what, if I continue doing this for the rest of my life, or at least let's say for the next few years, I'm happy, I'm good. I don't need to go and chase something else at this point.
Or at least, how have your goals changed since you've reached that place? Because at the end of the day, it's not about having small ambitions or big ambitions. Having an ambition, generally having a direction, a goal, like you want to just be able to get yourself a dog, like you're happy with having your dog and your space, and and then from there you've achieved that, then what's the next step, right? Are you just going to stay there? Like that's the question here, right? So if you have achieved something big you wanted to achieve, like your profession, right, what was the next step for you? Like, what was the next goal? Or do you feel like you're now remaining static or stagnant? Like, do you feel you've achieved everything you want and you're just happy? Or, because for me, I don't know. I'm someone who, I can't picture that. I can't picture saying, okay, like I've reached my dream and that's it. I'm done. I'm always going to be like, all right, I've achieved this. Great. Now what's the next step? And I'm going to find something else to want to work on.
That could also be a sign of the times as well. But conversation for another time.
Let's get into that another time.
I think we'll wrap up at that. So on behalf of myself and Chris, and also on behalf of Charizard, Charmander, Bulbasaur, Pikachu, Squirtle, Cubone, or is that Marowak?
It's Cubone.
That is Cubone, right? That's not Marowak. No. And Mewtwo and Psyduck. That was fun. I if you've made it all the way to the end, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and hope you can teach us something in return. So get involved. If you want, send me a message. Tell me whatever it is that you want to share. Something you didn't like, something you want me to change. Tell me if you like Chris or not, if you want to see more of Chris or not.
Or if you don't want to see more of my handsome beard.
You know, you do have like everybody says, you do have the radio voice. I'd love to like keep you here for the long term. But yeah, anyways, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed that. And
comment, like, and subscribe to this handsome devil right here.
Shut up, Chris.
Give him some love.
Okay, as he says. Thank you so much. And bye-bye.
Bye.